Hey everybody, my name is Marlilo, and like a ton of you asked for a breakdown of the project file, or what VSTs I use in the songs that I make. And so I picked this one just to kind of explain the process that I go through. That got me thinking about exactly what I do to make one of my tracks sound similar to another game. First things first, a close friend of mine named Salvati made me realize that making music like this isn't as much about the presets as it is sounding new and original while still maintaining the style of the original game. In fact, it's much more about really listening closely and figuring out exactly what makes a track tick, and then saving that for later when you need it. Now obviously, I'm not going to be going through like how exactly to use a DAW. I think you guys are pretty talented on your own from what I've seen, so I don't think I need to go over that. What I will do though is I will explain a few tips and tricks to make something sound or be arranged like Terraria. And one of those things is separating the synth, the orchestra, and the drums. I know for a fact this is actually how Scott Lloyd Shelley does it in his tracks. I think that just makes it easier for him to mix down and kind of make everything sparse while still sounding complicated and intricate. For example, here's the orchestra section in this song. As you can hear, it's pretty sparse and only consists of a few different instruments. At the beginning I use clarinets and cello pizzicatos to give sort of a playful and adventurous feel to the song. Later I bring in violin trills and some cello sustains to make the orchestra feel a little bit more filled out. The sample library that Scott Lloyd Shelley uses is East-West Symphonic Orchestra Platinum. I'll leave a link in the description to get that. While it's cool that some of the sounds from Terraria actually exist in this plugin, like this, I actually think it's a great plugin on its own, and it's worth the money just because it's a great lightweight orchestral library that I use all the time in other tracks as well. I will go into a little bit more depth and detail on the synths. I'll tell you guys about 3 synthesizers that have really changed the game for me and kind of make up the soundtrack as a whole. Number 1 would be Da Hornet by New Softing. This is a great little synth. I actually like it so much that I bought a real-life version of it. But anyway, number 2 would be Chip Sounds by Plogue. Just kind of helps get those like little blippy sounds that you can't really make with like a regular ADSR synthesizer. It's got a lot of wavetables that other synthesizers don't necessarily have. And number 3 would be Albino 3 by Rob Papin. This synthesizer contains the pad from the Day theme that everybody knows. As for some secrets on synthesizers, really just go for some ambient pads in places that need to be more full, and then make something that's really sharp and stands out to give that contrast to the track. For example, this click is just made in Serum. It's a square wave with an extremely short envelope, and that's literally it. And then just delay and compressor. This is the ambient pad that Lviv B Audio pointed out, and yes, this is actually in the soundtrack. It's like all over the soundtrack. I'm sure you guys can hear it. I think it's the first thing that you hear in Day, so. Yeah, so this is just ambient pad and sculpture. There's literally no edits to it at all. It's just a preset. As far as drums go, there's not much really to it. You just need something that sounds glitchy with orchestral like elements like bongos or water drums or log drums or anything like that. I have this bongo loop right here with movement on it that just kind of makes this really cool opening sequence for the song. And then later I have a drum kit from Ultrabeat with movement, bit crusher, and live cut on it. I'll show you guys what live cut does in a second. Live cut is basically an effect that plays your samples back to you through like an algorithm that cuts it up. So as you can see here, I have it on cut proc 11, and then messing with the settings, you can make these sounds that are kind of sped up and messed up and glitchy, and those are all over the soundtrack in Terraria. Later in the song, where it gets a lot more heavy and full, I have live cut sitting underneath the actual drums a lot more often. As far as composition tips go, it's also somewhat simple, although I'd say this is probably the most important part of the entire style. You really have to have the orchestral elements, and you also have to have, well, you don't have to have, there's no set rules, obviously, but you have to have a section that is whole tone. Actually, Amolga2225 pointed this out. I didn't even really realize that I did that. Additionally, switch it up like every 4 to 8 bars. There's kind of like this plague that's in FLstudio that is patterns. And it just makes you kind of copy paste the same thing over and over again. And that's just like horrible for interesting sounding tracks. You really just don't want the same thing happening like more than twice or 3 times or 4 times or something like that. So I'd say switch it up every 4, 8 bars. I just think it's good to have a lot of variety in tracks like this. Lastly, if you guys don't know where to start, I'd say just try it out. You'll end up having fun anyway, and it's just a good exercise to practice more. Thank you guys so much for the support as of late. It's been really unexpected, and I'm really happy you guys are enjoying everything. In the next few days, I'll be posting something a little bit different from what I have been posting recently, and I'm really excited for you guys to see it, and I hope you all like it. Anyway, that's it for this video. See you guys later.